Welcome to 2019. That still feels extremely weird to say. Yeah, who is here? I don't know what's up with this single patron and supporter hangout, but it looks like it didn't properly go out to a ton of people. I don't know. But yeah, here we are. It is 2019. We're still doing the same thing. New year, new me. Whatever. It's fine. So let's go through what's happening. Let me see. There we go. So Paul has already been asking, would be great to get a general update on where some of the projects are at and new stuff to look forward to. For me personally, I'm quite interested in how the MPCNC and speaker project are going. Off-grid printer was awesome. So yeah, off-grid printer was awesome. Where did I actually put that? Is that that is still upstairs. So off-grid printer, fun project. I've been looking forward to that for a while, and it probably doesn't come off that well in the video, but that thing actually works extremely well. Like it literally just works like a printer play because there's not much that can go wrong there. It has power. It runs forever. It prints. I mean, for a printer from when is the printer play from? 2015, 2014. For a printer that age, it still prints great. I mean, it doesn't keep up with your most modern, best printers out there, but it's still a fantastic machine. And yeah, I really like the idea. Let's see if I actually get to print on the flight to Murph. Let's see if I actually dare to do that. But yeah, that was fun. The other question from Paul was, hey, what's up with the MPCNC? And the MPCNC is happening. Like I've spent the last few weeks on not working on the project, but actually getting tax done, which is always so much fun to do. But yeah, I have all the parts for the MPCNC here. I just need to, take the time and actually get it done. But yeah, I just like half an hour ago, I finished up all the, sorting invoices and other crap that you have to do for your tax. Well, not the tax return, but for your income tax and VAT and what else you have to do as an entrepreneur. So yes, this is parts for the MPCNC. So it's very definitely happening soon-ish. Don't want to get nailed down on a specific date. Brushless spindle, this thing is amazing. I've run it before. You get like your brushless driver, you get an RPM controller, and you get an RPM display even. That's great. I have all the motors and screws and bits and bobs here. Don't want to break anything right here. Give me a second. Yeah, and I do have all the printed parts. The printed parts is actually, quite the chore to get done because it's so much. It's like, look at this. Okay, that's screws and stuff. Look at this. This entire box is printed parts for the MPCNCs, and these things just weigh a ton for 3D printed parts because the recommendation is to print them at 50% or 55% input, and it's just tons of these chunky parts that you have, but they're all printed. They all fit. I've tried them on the. Well, I didn't get the conduit that's supposed to be used. I got a standard 25mm stainless steel pipe. I tried it, it fits, so that is ready to get put together. But yeah, that's going to be similar to the Dolly printer project, where it's a set of videos where it's, okay, these are the parts I'm going to be using. This is like the basics of how everything works, and then just a stream series of building the thing. Because I think that the process is still hopefully worth watching. So yeah, that's happening. Speaker project, I have like 6 or 7 hours of footage that I have to edit for that. But yeah, speaker project definitely happening, and there's actually 3 speaker projects going on now. So yes, very much all still happening. And Volker is already, posting some 3D Senpai questions. So let's move on to that. Yeah, actually I already have it open. Sweet. I'm always kind of, during live streams, I'm always kind of afraid to click links that people send to photos because you never know what it's going to be, whether it's actually going to be 3D prints or something else that he can't show on YouTube. So yeah, he has some issues with, let's see, extrusion issues. The first few layers of the benchy look okay, but the top part of the cabin has some weird extrusion issues. So let's actually look at this. 3D Senpai, mini 3D Senpai here. This is your standard 3D Benchy, and you know there's always projects coming along where it's like, hey, I want to improve on the 3D Benchy design, or I want to make something else. But the 3D Benchy is so good because it's an organic design and it has everything. Well, it tests pretty much every little aspect of your 3D printer. So what we're seeing here is the bottom here has, you know, your regular inconsistencies. I mean, an FDM 3D printer is never going to be perfectly smooth, but this is, I'd say this is like within reason. This is all right. There's a bit of drooping here. So that looks like it might be a bit too hot or a cooling issue, but because these are still, well, relatively chunky layers, I'd say the temperature is slightly off or the filament is wet, which is actually something that would explain most of these issues. Wet filament kind of behaves like that. Let me see, and yeah, up here at the cabin, that's where the nasty stuff starts happening. So I've thought about this before the stream just slightly, and it looks like, you know, down here where the layers are relatively large and relatively chunky, and the hot end actually gets a chance to stabilize in this large area up front where it's just continuously printing for a bit without a retract, it's still fine. But up here, where it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little sections within each layer that are each just, you know, maybe a millimeter or less of filament, this is where it really gets nasty. And up here you can see that the bow is also starting to, or the tip up here of the bow is also starting to degrade, but this cabin where you get all these little retracts is kind of really nasty. So to me that looks like, or seems like it's something not mechanical, but because if it was, you know, an XYZ, or this is a delta, right? Let's check the delta, yes. So this is on a delta, so motion system should be fine with this. I mean, delta motion system issues are not easy to diagnose, but this doesn't look like one. So that leaves us with extruder and hot end, and of course the filament. So what it looks like to me is that the retracts aren't working properly or aren't working consistently. So this is just the area where this print has the most retracts. Up here, small cross section, not a ton of issues. So this is fine. So it's not really an overheating issue. The chimney up here is, you know, if you have insufficient cooling and too high of a print temperature, this thing is going to melt down. But this looks okay-ish. It doesn't look super clean, but it's all right. So that kind of takes the hot end and just the basic print settings out of the question. So again, to me, that looks like retract issues, the extruder not gripping properly and kind of retracting an inconsistent amount, and then on the reverse of the retract, when it pushes the filament back in, it kind of does that consistently, but it doesn't pull out all the way every time. So tips for that, slow down retract speed. Yeah, and just try to get that consistent. Slow down retract speed, make sure your extruder is not skipping steps while it's doing that retract. Maybe check your tension on the idler spring where it pinches the filament against the hopped gear. And yeah, try and you know, get the extruder to just work consistently, and go slower. Go slower is like the universal advice that has been working for so long, and it still applies because it's still the same machines we're dealing with. Go slower, and what was the other one? Check that your filament is dry. Maybe use a fresh spool, put it in the oven if it's PLA. I'm thinking this is PLA, right? Doesn't say, but I'm assuming this is PLA. Put it in the oven at like 30, 40 degrees. Just make sure that stuff is dry. So comment from Volker in chat here, extruder is a Bondtech BMG, so that's probably not slipping. So I would also check your driver, your stepper driver current settings. Just make sure you're not starving the motor of current, and it's actually not skipping steps as well. So yeah, just consistency and go slower. That is a very good first step. Where's my F5? So again, like I mentioned there, it seems like this Patreon post and YouTube membership post didn't properly send out because there's not a ton of actually, that's it for questions that we have today. There's not a ton of feedback there, so that's your chance for you folks in chat to ask away. And for Volker, who's in the ICE, in the German high-speed train right now, yes, there is a recording of these Hangouts, these live streams available at the same link. So you just go to the same page that you're on right now, or the same video link. And once the stream is done, it's going to be a recording of the full length with everything still in there. Let me see if somebody asked something on the YouTube community page. And yeah, just to clarify that again, because I've seen some angry comments, or at least a single angry comment on YouTube, where it was like, "What is?" Hold on. Like, what's the deal with this YouTube join thing? Are you gonna be like pay-per-view now? Are you gonna? Why are you including paywalls now? And no, that's just not what I'm doing. I'm not putting up paywalls ever. That's never been the plan for the channel, and it's paywalls are just not going to be a thing here. As long as I can sustain it, I will be making the stuff freely available, and supporting the channel and my work through Patreon or through YouTube memberships is always going to be optional. So I don't know where that idea is coming from. Yes, there can be like YouTube membership exclusive content, but my regular videos are never going to be that. So let me see and basically the YouTube membership works kind of in exactly the same way as the $5 Patreon tier. And in fact, YouTube have recently sent out a survey being like, hey, how does our membership service compare to Patreon, and how can we make it more like Patreon? So I mean, that's exactly what they're going for. And yeah, again, same thing as the Patreon $5 Inquisitor tier. It's just you get live streams. Nothing is ever going to be behind a paywall. So yeah, just if you don't like Patreon and you like YouTube more, and you like Google more for whatever reason, it's just an alternative. All right, Dan. Doug Moore is asking in chat, have you had any issues getting parts to stick to the Prusa's textured bed? No problems with the smooth sticker, but the textured bed has been spotty. Dan, is that just for you, or is that something that is coming across on the internet? I'm just looking for my stash of Prusa beds. Where did I? There's some, but these are all stickered beds. And my Mark III is next door. So, getting stuff to stick on the Prusa PEI bed. No, actually. So, as with any PEI, these are just stickered old ones. As with any PEI bed, the core, or the magic sauce, is that a whatever? It's just keeping it clean. You know, keeping any fingerprints off, and keeping it grease free basically. I don't always run PEI just naked without anything on it. It's still, you know, the same as with the stickered beds, with the old stickered beds. PLA sticks really well to it. ABS and PC ABS and all those, that entire group of materials sticks to it pretty well. Prusa say you can also print PTG onto it without any additives, but on many prints I just use a thin layer of glue stick mostly to protect the bed. And the glue stick, you know, sticks to most things well because it sticks on a different chemical basis. Basically, it doesn't bond to your part, and yeah, I've not noticed a massively different adhesion performance versus just these stickered beds. In fact, if I would have to quantify the texture, gives it a bit of a more, how to say, it gives you more leeway when adjusting your first layer height. So it sticks more consistently. It doesn't have that vacuum suction that you get on glass with PLA most of the time. But so far, again, it's been working pretty well for me. In fact, I have been using a PEI coated bed on my Mendel 9000 for a while. I feel like that has been sticking slightly better, but that was on the edge of sticking too well for many things, especially for ABS. It would, you know, it's very robust, so it wouldn't get torn up by trying to peel parts off, but it stuck a bit better than everything else on the verge of sticking too well. So yeah, yeah, I have not had an issue, but then again, I don't always use the natural PEI, and when I print PLA, it's just on the bare PEI, and that always works for me. Windex, Windex does have additives in it, that, you know, soapy stuff, for cleaning and for giving you that streak-free finished, streak-free, for taking care of streaks. So it might actually leave something on the surface that is kind of dirt repelling. That might be an issue. I never recommend to use any sort of like commercial or household cleaner like Windex, so window cleaner or dish soap or that sort of stuff. I always just use a 50-50 mix of alcohol, any sort of alcohol, whether that's isopropyl alcohol or ethanol, which is your common spirits alcohol. 50-50 mix of that with water, and just wipe it down every few prints, and that takes that dissolves off both your glue stick residue or other adhesives, which is usually PVA based. The water takes care of that, and then the alcohol takes care of any lipids, any fats, and greases that your fingers or anything else may have deposited. And that is what a Printer Pro sells as their Printer Clean. But I use the same bottle, which is alcohol resistant, the same spray bottle, and just fill it back up with your 50-50 mixture of water and ethanol. Yo, questions. Where's my tabs? There's my tabs. Any more questions, guys? We got 12 people watching. See, I think we have like a 30-second delay while you guys post stuff in chat. Here, one more update that I do have. So in I guess November, December 2018, this room for me has been kind of a dreaded place. I didn't want to be in here for, I guess, a pretty specific reason, and that is that my throat and my nose, so my respiratory tube system, was getting irritated from something down here. And I'm pretty sure it's not mold, it's not spores, because this room is pretty well tempered and humidity is under control, and it's not really, that's not really an issue. And I kind of, in my head, I kind of correlated it with the fact that I had brought the Wanhao D7 back in here, which was in that corner. It used to be in that corner back there, in front of the Tiny Boy, which you still can't see because the boxes are too big. So I had that sitting back there, and you could see it in most of my videos. And in the stream where I tried that thing out, I've not reviewed it fully yet. In the stream where I tried that thing out, I was noticing that the resin that they're using smelled. And it didn't just smell like like an epoxy. It has that slight epoxy smell. It was like more of a smoky, pretty intense flavor to me. And I didn't make much of it, but I guess by just having the printer in here and by having some open, unhardened resin residue in there, that was still gassing off, and it was still releasing something into the air. And I'm not sure if I'm just sensitized to it. My immune system is now screwed up because I've been in contact with the resin, or the resin itself is just so nasty that it's like irritating people's respiratory systems by default. But as soon as I took the printer out and I gave this room some fresh air and just had some ventilation going on, as soon as I took the printer and the resin out, like a week after that, it was fine. I can now be down here again for extended amounts of time. So for more than, just shooting a video and then suffering for the next hour because my throat hurts. So that is a fantastic thing to have. In the long term, I still want to have some fresh air in here. I got myself one of these. Don't want to drop this thing. One of these energy recovering ventilation units. So we're going to take out one of the windows in here and actually put that in here and seal it up. So that has not just you can probably not see much there, but that has not just a heat exchanger in there, but it also has a humidity exchanger. So it's got an enthalpy core, which they're calling it. And basically it is making sure the air, so the basic function is it exhausts your stale used air and it pulls in fresh air. And typically units just recover the heat both ways. So if it's cooler in here, it's going to stay cool and the air is going to come in cooler than it is outside. But this one also has a humidity recovery core in there. So the humidity from outside is not going to come in here, and if we have a high humidity in here, it's not going to get exhausted to the outside. So this room should stay relatively consistent in both temperature and humidity, which is kind of essential for having like filament up on the wall and filament out in the open and printing in here. So that's good. That's going to go up soonish. In fact, I've already printed. Where is it? I've already printed a bracket that I wanted to use for inserting it into the window, but this was like a 3-day print. I don't think I'm going to be able to use this. It's just, well, first of all, it's way too much filament. And it's also, this is like 2% infill, and then a small center section. You can see it on the bottom probably better than anywhere else, where it's higher infill in the center. I might make a video about how to do this because it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's still like 700 grams of filament, and it's just not reasonable to do that. So yeah, that's going to go up soon, and then this room is going to be perfectly conditioned, I'm hoping. And yes, that should make working down here much easier. So chat, yes. What's a common retraction speed, to follow up on Foka's question about his Benchy? What is a common retraction speed that I should try? Didn't have to use retraction on my Cartesian printer, so I don't really have any experiences there. Foka, so first of all, what you can try just to diagnose it, just to make sure it is in fact a retraction issue, is just turn off retraction entirely. Yes, it's going to get stringy, of course, but if that issue of your blobbiness on the layers, so if that entire thing just goes away by turning off retraction, then you've got a pretty clear indicator that it is in fact an issue related to retraction. And then, a normal speed is somewhere around, I'd say 20 millimeters a second, plus minus a lot. Like some printers can go really fast on that and some have to go slower. On a Bowden system, that's typically going to be within with a length of like 4, 5, or 6 millimeters, somewhere in that range. Yeah. But again, it's totally going to depend on your exact printer's stepper setup, what it can actually handle and where it's going to perform best. So experiment and try a few different values. The chat is pretty quiet. Dan is asking, how do I feel about the current state of 3D printing in 2019? Where do you see holes in the market, and what do you expect this year? So what do I expect this year? I've been off on this question before. It wouldn't be the first time that I've guessed things wrong where it's going to go. I thought we'd have much more intelligent printers now, just more widespread. Instead, we're getting way cheaper printers that are actually okay. They're not great, but they're okay. They're very usable. They're way more usable than they used to be. Where is it going to go in 2019? I think, so we've kind of talked about this on the podcast, on the Meltzone podcast with Stefan and myself, just, wishes for 2019, what we want to happen. And I actually remembered the one thing that was still like, hey, there's one thing I'm forgetting right now. And I think it's the most critical one that I wish is going to happen. And that is, I guess, user retention. I've talked to someone about this, just estimating how much of the 3D printer user base just gets a 3D printer, prints a few things off of Thingiverse, prints a few things off of filament, off of Thingiverse, maybe uses the first spool of filament and orders 5 more, and 4 of those spools never get used because it just gets stale and there's no real application for their machine. So I've preached about this 3 or 4 years ago already, and it's, please people, if you get a 3D printer, also learn some sort of CAD, whether that's Blender or Fusion or anything else that allows you to make your own parts, that allows you to solve your problems with 3D printing. I wish that is going to be something that gets more accessible, more well documented. Of course, I can be a part of that, and just more accessible. I think I said that already, in 2019. So actually making use of the tools that are now out there, because again, the $200 printers, they can 3D print, they can put out parts that solve problems. And 3D printing is such a powerful technology for that, that it would be a shame to put it out there with people and not have them use it. So yeah, that is the one thing I wish is going to happen for 2019. What I think is going to happen for 2019, first of all, Prusa is probably going to release their resin printer, their SL1. That's going to be one of the big things. More printers are going to get more sensors and more awareness about what they're doing and their surroundings, and whether the print's going well, whether filament's running out. That's one of the basic things that they can do, right, with like a 2-cent switch box. So that's for sure going to happen more and more, because there's so many things that they can do without adding a ton of cost, and that's always the big inhibitor for innovation is, hey, how much extra cost is this going to add to our product? If it's going to be something like, hey, we're going to put a 4K camera and a quad-core computer and a neural network on there that detects whether a print is failing, that's just not going to happen. Not because the hardware is expensive, but because it's also a ton of extra development cost without a certain outcome even that needs to be done first. But those low-hanging fruits, again, bed level sensors, it feels like a lot of printers are actually going by without them and are just giving you a way of leveling it. Leveling the bed properly, which is fine, I guess. Bed leveling sensors, filament sensors, hopefully better safety awareness when it comes to overheating and those sort of things. Just the stuff that's already implemented, that's going to get used more, because I think people are going to look for that more, because there's more of an awareness. Hey, you buy the old N8, it might catch on fire, and there's a lot of flammable stuff there, so maybe I should buy a printer that's got a metal frame, maybe. So that would be nice to see. But yeah, again, it is really hard to predict that sort of thing, especially when it's like unsure where 3D printing as a whole is heading, whether it's going more towards consumers, or whether companies are going to pivot towards more industry heavy applications. So yeah, no idea. Let's just see what is going to happen. Jason, again, you can also post in live chat right here, but can you not post links? Right, yeah. So posting through Patreon is fine. So Jason has another 3D Senpai question. So, is this inconsistent extrusion? It might actually be a combination of a few things. So what I'm looking for here is, it's probably not extrusion related. So with something like this, what I'm looking for here is whether this ribbing that you're seeing right there, whether that is at a consistent distance from one rib to the next. And this actually looks like it is, especially down here, where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 at a very perfect distance, and the distances up here look very similar as well. So I think this is probably a combination of issues, but It may also be Z-wobble. Maybe not Z-wobble in your most classic way, where it's literally the Z-axis spindle, your threaded rod, or trapezoid spindle wobbling and taking the entire X-axis along with it. It might be something where it's kind of rocking up and down and changing the Z-axis height. It might also be an issue that is pops up here and there, and it's plagued me in the past, where your spool is actually physically pulling up on your tool head. So if you have let's just grab this Mark II right here. That's a wild build. That has a prototype slice harden in it. Nice. Mosquito harden. So where you have a direct drive extruder, or a non-Bowden extruder, where your spool or your filament goes in the top, and if this filament is hard to pull, so as the extruder is pulling in, it's actually pulling itself up as well. And if you have an X-axis or an extruder that is kind of loose and wobbly, and I mean, you can see this one kind of rocking back and forth as well. So if the spool was hard to turn here, it may actually regularly pull itself up and kind of give you that exact look where you get, those sectors where the filament is under tension and is pulling up on the extruder, and then the spool kind of rotates a bit, and then it's without tension for a while, and then it tenses up again. So it's that back and forth that can also look like it's Z-wobble. So check on that. And yeah, let me see. So the issue like that, where it's actually the spool pulling up, is probably not going to be as consistent throughout the print, because this looks like up here at the chimney it's still the same spacing as down here, and there's a lot more filament per layer being used down here than up there. So this would be a much finer spacing than up here, where it would be more coarse. But it looks like this is still pretty much the same spacing up here and down there. So I'm thinking, no, it is not inconsistent extrusion. It is a mechanical XYZ, so Z-wobble, where your tool head position is not constrained to the exact position it is supposed to be at. All right. How does one fix that? Z-wobble has a few magic solutions that are supposed to work but often don't. And sometimes they actually do, even though they're, like, from an engineering standpoint, they're just wrong. Now, Z-wobble is basically, you have some sort of bent rod. It's going to be an upgrade situation where, the best solution is to get a proper straight T8 trapezoid spindle. Check your couplers, make sure the couplers aren't like bent and offset. And yeah, just make sure as you're moving your X-axis up, it doesn't do that. It doesn't wobble up like that. And yeah, it always depends on the exact printer, because there isn't like one specific solution that can fix it on any machine. It might be a combination of issues that lead to that, and each one of those are going to require a different solution. All right, looks like we did in fact get some questions in, and did get some good stuff to talk about. So yeah, happy 2019, everyone. Thanks for stopping by, even though it's only been a few people that apparently got the notification that the Hangout's going to happen. I'm not sure what's up there. But yeah, as always, thank you for, I just opened up my teleprompter app. Damn it. There we go. As always, thank you all for your support on Patreon and on the YouTube membership feature. Helps out a ton. I'm gonna go back to making videos now that my tax stuff for 2017 is taken care of. Yeah, MPC&C is gonna happen. More projects from my side, definitely gonna happen. Looking forward to that. I want to make stuff, and that's what I'm gonna get back at. So thanks for stopping by, and yeah, thank you for your support, and I'll see you on YouTube and in the next Hangout next month. Goodbye. And as usual, I never know when I can actually click stop recording. Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm like the running billboard of 3D printer companies here. I actually wear this stuff, the Trinamic hat too, in the battery power printer. I wear this stuff because it's generally comfortable. This E3D hoodie, that is my favorite hoodie. This shirt, Protopasta, super soft, super nice. Trinamic hat, nice and warm. So yeah, I'm not getting paid to wear this, but it's just nice stuff. So yeah, bye. Can I click yet? Yeah.